BCAM podcast, where we believe better coaching always matters. My name is Michael Masucci, author of Elite Journey books and BCAM board member. My co-host is Coach Dan Young, the executive director of BCAM, the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan. On this podcast, we bring in leaders to share insights for the betterment of our game. Our vision is that every team across the great state of Michigan has a great coach. We're so excited to have the renowned coach Dusty May from the University of Michigan join us for this episode. Coach, welcome to the BCAM podcast.
Hey guys, it's great to be on.
Coach, you're on the heels of a Big Ten tournament championship, a Sweet 16 run, but we'd like to take you back to 2018 and you become a head coach at Florida Atlantic. Talk to our coaches and our listeners about that process, about that job, how you built a team, and eventually a Final Four run.
I think, first of all, 2018 seems like so long ago now. Very, very grateful for the players and coaches I was able to work with. That's why I'm able to be in a place like Michigan. There's no other explanation. But just looking back, I wasn't even going to interview for the job. I was completely happy, content at the University of Florida as an assistant coach. And someone, basically my mentor, said, you need to go take a look. So I took a look at it, felt like it was a good enough job to acquire some talent, retain talent. And then it was basically to the drawing board of what to do, how to coach, who we wanted to be. Very, very little pressure. I tell people all the time that Brian White, our athletic director, extended us when we were 17 and 16 or 17 and 15 the first year. So that's unheard of. But looking back, he was happy with the direction of the program, and it was more of a vote of confidence than anything else. But it was great because we could learn and grow and decide who we were going to be without the pressure of the Big Ten or SEC basketball.
That Final Four team, did that team give you any clues that you were going to make that run in the off season, or was that just, wow, look what came together in March?
Well, first of all, I think the year before we were 1-11 in games decided by 2 possessions or less. And so we were really, really close, and we just couldn't get over the hump. And because of the timing of it, we weren't good enough where the bigger schools were going to come after our players. We were still a little bit under the radar, but we were really, really close to a breakthrough. So I think it was just a confluence of events that allowed us to get over the hump. But that same group, we added a couple players to it, and then we were able to add a few pieces, and it allowed us to be one of the better teams in the country that year. It wasn't a fluke. We won 20 straight games. We were ranked in the top 25, and just had a great group of guys.
I loved that sentiment that the athletic director gave you, that vote of confidence, almost like that faith in things unseen. What are some markers of success that you have that you know things are going right, even though you might be losing games by 2 points, or you might not get the results you want, but based on either the art or the science of the game that things are going right for your team?
Well, we were inventing ways to lose, so I was actually questioning everything. It was the oddest thing. We'd foul a 3-point shooter, and he would make all three, and then we would miss the front end of one. Just literally every game, it was something different. But we were right there every night, and we played really good basketball in spurts. We just couldn't finish a game. But that year, we had 2 of our point guards were out with injuries. Nick Boyd, who ended up becoming a really good player for us, and he's actually going to be at Wisconsin this year in the Big Ten. And BJ Greenlee, our other point guard, missed several games. And then we hadn't added Jalen Gaffney to the season before. So I think if you had 3 really high caliber point guards to a roster that's growing and developing already, you have a chance to make a jump. And the following year, I think we went 12-1 or 12-2 in those same games. So once again, you hope there's a breakthrough. You never know if it's going to happen. But usually when you bring back the same group and then add a few really intelligent winning pieces, then you can get over the hump.
So, Coach, we're so excited to have you in the state of Michigan. You just completed your first year. We see you at BCAM events. You were at our BCAM high school event this summer. You signed our Mr. Basketball, Trey McKinney. You've really embraced the state. Tell us how you're forming this new team that's coming up. Like, what are some of the the things that you learn from Florida Atlantic, maybe things unique to the University of Michigan, all the things that it takes to build a great team. How are you putting that all together with your staff?
I think the recipe is that you have to get guys that love basketball, they love to compete, and they really care about each other. Because whether you're signing high school players, transfers, junior college players, whatever the case, if they're not good people that care about each other, you're not going to be able to form a group that performs, I guess, above their resume. And we try to get guys that are good people, that are unselfish, and hopefully we can blend it all together in the right way. And it's a challenge when everyone's new. But we think that the quality of people allows you to figure it out and grow together and develop and the same things that we've always been able to do. We just have to do it a little quicker now than we did 5 to 10 years ago.
Coach, I'll never forget when you first got the job. I want to say 2 weeks later, beginning of April, you let us have a quick meeting with you to introduce ourselves, talk about BCAM, and we really wanted to just see if you'd be interested in speaking at our clinic, which you obviously accepted right away. But I'll never forget you saying, "I've got 30 minutes because I have no staff and 2 players." And I thought about that all season long. I have no staff and 2 players. Unbelievable.
Well, the staff part was unique because I thought one of my assistants at FAU would get the job. And so there would be some form of blended staff where he would keep some guys, I would bring some guys, and roles may change, job positions may change. But when Kyle Church or Drew or Todd, none of those guys got the job, then it was, how do we form the best staff for us? And those guys, several of them joined me a few weeks later. And because of that, we were able to hit the ground running. We have great staff chemistry. We added Mike Boynton and Justin Joyner to a staff of guys that had all worked together before, or Akeem and Drew had barely overlapped, but they knew each other well. So probably our greatest superpower is our staff chemistry and continuity. And that trickles down into the staff. When you have a group of men that are great teammates, they serve our players, they serve each other, it becomes contagious.
And similar to your selection of players, similar people. I was at practice the other day, and the assistants were running 3 different workouts, different positions. And I was blown away in how well they communicated, their attention to detail, the way they interacted with one another and the players, and then the holding them accountable, but yet having it come from a really good way of doing it. I was just like, these guys are really good. So it's similar to recruiting players.
Without a doubt, they all have great emotional intelligence, and it's difficult because if you don't self-promote, if you don't try to take a lion's share of the credit, it's tough to get a head coaching job, or it's tough to progress in the profession. And when you're doing it all together, you have to trust the process, just like players do. You have to trust that it's going to happen for you if you want to do it together, and if you sacrifice, because it's blind faith. And those guys do it every single day, but they do a great job of playing off of each other, of living in their strengths and supporting each other, but also always having each other's backs. I mean, it's as close of a group as there is in the country. And like I said, that trickles down. But the player relationship, the coach relationship, we see it as that our job as coaches are to serve our players, and their job is to serve each other.
I'm glad Coach Young mentioned practice, because you have a really nationwide reputation of a masterclass practice. And one thing I noticed, Coach, at the end of your practice, you formed a circle with your team. And I was too far away. I was there with the legendary Michigan alum Tim McCormick, and we were kind of pointing out, "Oh, look what they're doing!" And can you tell us get us into that circle of trust a little bit of what you do at the end of practice as a team?
Well, each day it's something different, and our job as coaches is to kind of read the room and I guess take a temperature check of how our guys are feeling and how that day went. For example, our practice today, the message was that we have a lot of really good players in our program and great parity. And some days you're going to be really good, and some days you're going to perform poorly. But it doesn't really matter in July, as long as you're focused on improving the next day and coming in and watching film and addressing the things that either went well or didn't go so well. So not being so emotional, and even learning from the NBA playoffs. We, especially this time of year, the Thunder Pacer series is still fresh in our minds. And when you look at those two teams, they were able to come back from huge deficits throughout the regular season and playoffs because they simply kept playing. They never got too high, they never got too low. They just kept plugging and playing. And it usually was a spark was started by one of the reserves who just simply made an energy play or an effort play or did something to serve their teammate. And that just started a run where I think a lot of times young players feel like their contributions to a comeback or whatever the case will just be making a big shot or taking over a game. And we're trying to encourage them to simply stay within each other in the flow of the game and find other ways to contribute to a comeback or to preserving a lead other than just shooting a hard shot or whatever the case.
Coach, conflict is inevitable in a season, and ebbs and flows, and it seemed like when things were going well for you guys, you continue that, but then maybe you have a little ebb in your season. How do you rally the troops when it's a low point in the season and get the morale back up? It seemed like you did such a great job this season of keeping the team together in the toughest of times.
Well, I would hate to take credit for their resiliency, but I do think our approach of just staying focused on what's next does help us stay fairly narrow-minded and singularly focused. Because we lost 3 games. We lost 3 home games at the end of the season. And to be honest, it very well could have been 5 straight home games. We weren't playing well. We looked beat up. And at that time, we felt like our guys probably needed a little confidence and belief. And so we just tried to do the best we could to inject some confidence into them that we can still do this. We've hit a rough patch. Every team does it, but our most important basketball is in front of us. And we didn't achieve one of our goals, which is a Big Ten regular season championship, but we still had a lot of basketball in front of us, and we had the pieces to do it. So, we I guess shortened our rotation. We stuck with a few guys that played a little bit here and a little bit there throughout the season, and they produced. And to be honest, that might have been just enough to get us over the edge. But it's a season of highs and lows. Even earlier in the year, we felt like we were playing well and lost some games we didn't deserve to lose. And then in Big Ten play, we felt like there's probably a few games we may not have deserved to win, but we found a way. So it usually balances out.
Yeah. So, Coach, we love using our imagination. Take us back to the young Dusty May growing up in Indiana. And was it like the Dick by Tail, like a boy, a ball, and a dream? Or was it more like, how did you fall in love with the game of basketball and eventually decide on the vocation of coaching?
Well, my mom moved from the small town that we lived in to another area and signed me up for a league at the time. It's probably still called that Eastern Biddy Ball League, Biddy, Biddy Ball. And from the first moment I played, I fell in love with the game. And I wasn't very good. And then we had a coach move into our area named Mark Barnheiser, and he organized pickup basketball games every morning at 6 a.m. And I happened to live on the way. He didn't have to go a couple miles off the highway to pick me up. He'd literally stop and pick me up at 5:40 in the morning. And so I learned to work and learned to love going to the gym. And when you're young playing with old guys, man, you learn some really important habits and traits that can carry you throughout coaching and playing, because you're just trying to figure out a way to help your team. You're trying to figure out a way not to get yelled at and cost your team a win. And so you're learning some real people skills at a young age. And I think that's really when I fell in love with more than just the game, with the player relationship, with the player coach relationship. And so I think there's several levels, but I would attribute more than anything else to I was very aggressive by nature. I had a lot of built up energy, and basketball was released. And then someone moved to our town and taught us all how to love to compete as much as anything else.
Boy, that's a story of how a coach can really make a difference. That coach really went above and
I
beyond.
was just going to
That's
say,
quite extraordinary. Yeah.
there was a coach that got that going, and a teacher, and someone who took the time to pick you up and take you to the gym. And
Well, it was self-serving. I don't want to give him too much credit, but his passion for the game and passion for teaching and going above and beyond was ultimately why I wanted to coach. He had such an impact on me that I wanted to be just like him. As far as picking me up in the mornings, it was
all
just
right.
wondering if some guys to play ball.
Well, it's a good story, anyways. So, Coach, your first coaching assistant job was at Eastern Michigan, where you learned to really be an assistant. We have over 5,000 coaches in our association. Many of them are head coaches, many are assistant coaches. You talked about the cohesion of your staff. I'm sure you learned some lessons at Eastern Michigan, and kind of that's where you learn the trade, so to speak, of the college game. Can you talk a little bit about your year in Ypsilanti?
Yeah, it was a great year. It was challenging. And I'd been on the road at Indiana 2 years and got bumped back down during the season. And so that experience pointed me in the direction of simply going out and getting on the road, getting on the floor and becoming a better coach. So at that point, I would have went to an NAIA Division II school, whatever the case. I'd met Charles Ramsey working the Cal Berkeley camps when I was an undergraduate manager, just traveling this circuit, and we had a good relationship and we had some mutual connections. And then he needed a young guy in the MAC at that time, the third assistant. We didn't make much, so I would work for cheap. I'd work a lot, and we had a great Coach Ramsey taught me a lot. Carl Thomas, Derek McDowell, Rich Mary, and now the coach here at Pioneer. Those guys, Dave Good, who's now an assistant at Texas A&M, those were the guys that I was on staff with. We worked very well together, and it was a tough year. We started out the season, we beat Cal Berkeley at home, a really good, well-coached team by Ben Braun. We beat a good Tulsa team by Dave Wojcik. Actually, it was Doug Wojcik, if I remember correctly. Dave was his assistant, who's now at Michigan. Doug's now at Michigan State. And so we got off to a good start, had some misfortune and didn't do well overall. But it was a great learning experience that even though our record wasn't great, we probably squeezed as much as we could out of that team. Everyone worked until the end. And even when it was bleak, everyone just showed up every day trying to find a way to get to find an edge to win a few games here and there. But it was a great learning experience. And then I was only here for a year, but I learned a lot, and it definitely helped me become who I am today.
Coach, and we want to honor your time, but we'd be remiss if we just didn't talk about like true like basketball, X's and O's, philosophy. Like, how did you develop that? What do you emphasize in your teams when somebody like looks at a Dusty May team or University of Michigan team? What will they see that might stand out or might just be consistent with what you do?
Well, I would hope if you watched our team play, you would see a group that seemed like they really enjoyed playing the game and embraced doing it together. We stress the importance of unselfishness and passing the basketball as much as anything on the offensive end. And then on the defensive end, the high level of intensity, physicality, aggression. And then we figure out the nuts and bolts from there. But when you watch our team play, there's certain things that we want people to we want people to leave the gym saying, man, that team really plays well together. They're extremely connected. They give everything they have. And I think that's something that through recruiting, we try to identify and bring in. And more importantly, we try to facilitate that environment every single day. We create that environment every single day. So when we do play the games, it's not any more difficult than practice, and they're prepared to go out and make decisions on their own, to figure things out as a group. And we're trying to train real independent thinkers that we're not micromanaging them as players. We're giving them options and expecting them to take advantage of what they see and read and develop. So typically year 2 in our program, our guys play much better in our system. But with today's transfer climate and whatnot, we have to, there's definitely some give and take with these first year guys.
I read this comment about your offensive thoughts, and I'd like our listeners to kind of get a little bit more. If you see space, attack space. Tell our listeners, in a little bit, what does that mean offensively?
Well, the court has gotten small with the size of players and athleticism. So we want to, some coaches call it double gaps. Coaches call it opening up the elbows. We want to open up space and then attack that space and then simply react to the advantage. The four other players who don't have the ball should be responding to the guy with the ball at all times. And if he needs help, they're coming towards the basketball. And if he's in attack mode, they're getting away from the ball. So you should see players almost always moving away from the ball on penetration, but it's more or less just taking advantage of playmakers and giving the ball space. We're in such an individual climate that guys are naturally going towards the basketball all the time and they want the ball. And at the end of the day, there's one ball and five players. So how can you find ways to impact the game without having it in your hands? And usually cutters, guys that they're playing off the basketball or off the guys that can naturally create advantage. They find the ball more often, and then we feel like it's a little bit unique where we're always trying to attack space. We're not trying to attack our strong hands. We're not trying to attack off of this screen or play. We give our guys a number of cutting options, a number of screening options with the objective of opening up space, and then we have to attack that space and then respond accordingly.
That's good stuff.
Coach, just talking about leadership in general a little bit, there's so much out there about leadership. But one thing that's striking about watching you and your teams is your sincerity, like your authenticity. Where did that come from? How did that foster? And it takes a lot of confidence just to be you, and to put yourself out there in your own sincere way. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about how that developed and how you lead your teams?
I think first and foremost, the people that I've worked for and worked with, I've probably just grabbed a little bit from each and every one of them. I've studied leadership books. We watch documentaries as coaches. We read books. We're always trying to get better if we care about our craft. And I think just certain things rub off on you. For example, I refer back to Dean Smith's book that I read probably when I was in college in my early 20s. And one thing that jumped out that I still use today is if the players do what we ask them to do, then the wins are theirs and the losses are ours. And we never negotiate from that. And I think they may have even said if you do what we tell you to do, the wins are yours. And for us, it's do what we ask you to do because we want this to be a collaboration. We're all partners in this. It's obviously I'm the head coach. I have to make a lot of decisions, but for the most part, we have a real collaboration where anyone has a voice. If anyone has a great idea, they're going to bring it to the table. We're going to see if it works and fits us, and if it does, we'll use it. If it's not, we'll put it in on the shelf and maybe use it later. But I think it's just once again a culmination of experiences and being around the right type of people. Mike White, who's now the head coach at Georgia, I worked for him for a number of years, and he was such a servant leader. He was so open to his staff, to his players, and I think that really rubbed off on me that he always wanted everyone's input, and then he knew he had to make the final decision, but it was healthy for him to get everyone's thoughts and take their temperature and then figure out what was the best way to go forward. So, I think it's just a combination of mostly the guys you've worked with and worked for.
Coach, you talked when we met you briefly, our first introduction. We were in your office and there was a desk there, and you said, "There's not going to be a desk in here. This will be a space of collaboration." You talked about a dry eraser wall. You talked about a bigger TV and an area where you could draw, collaborate with players and staff, and watch video. Is that how you do things as far as building your team?
Yes. We like to brainstorm. We like to throw out different ideas. Sometimes we just change just for the sake of change and not getting stale. If we think there's a better way for us to play, we're going to do it. And our staff's constantly bringing new ideas, new drills. We spend a lot of time trying to make our drills game applicable. And so year to year, I have a running drill database and a practice template. And it seems like it grows exponentially, but it's not adding, it's adding and subtracting. We subtract a lot of what we do to try to fit with becoming better teachers and finding a better way to do things. So as far as the office, I know a lot of coaches have their monumental basketballs and trophies, and to me, like I lose most of my rings, trophies, and watches. My wife may have them. I don't really know because that stuff it doesn't mean anything to me. I lost my career win ball number one. I probably lost ball number 100 because those things, at this stage of my life, I don't care about any of those things or stuff. It's the people, it's the relationships, it's seeing your guys do well in a foreign country. It's seeing your guys go into coaching because of the impact you and your staff had on them. So those are more of the symbols. So Lisa, who's my assistant, she's actually framed some pictures so my office isn't barren. But I'm just not into stuff and things. I'm a minimalist by nature, so I try to keep it open, clean. There's some candy to try to try to attract the players in for their chocolate for a sugar bump. But other than that, it's just trying to have a real welcoming environment where guys are comfortable coming in. That's one thing. Our practice facility, our offices are on the second floor. Our players are on the first floor. In a perfect world, they have to walk by your offices and say hello to start their day. But otherwise, we have to go downstairs and stop by the training room and constantly get up and go check on them. But those are the things we enjoy. That's more important than anything we could be doing. From whatever time we get there to whatever time we leave, anyway.
Coach, we want to thank you so much for joining us. We always ask our guests this final question. I'm really excited to hear your answer. If you were to give an aspiring coach who wants to have a long, distinguished career in our industry some advice, what advice would that be?
I think more than anything else, work on your craft every single day and take advantage of every basketball opportunity. There's so many great coaches. It's just like being a player. There's so much competition. You have to be in the right situation at the right time. So you have to put yourself in more situations so you can be in position at the right time. And figure out what needs to be done. What direction is the profession going in? Obviously now there's more analytics, more even writing code when it comes to analytics and things like that, and promotions and fundraising versus when I came up, the video room was a way for someone like me to get in. So figuring out what programs need, what is there very little of, and then maybe in your free time, learn those things. Now with international recruiting, learn a foreign language. Figure out a way to establish yourself in another country just to separate yourself from the other thousands of competent coaches. But most importantly, latch on to good people. Young guys come to me and they say they want to coach. I say, find a young coach that has a small staff and latch onto his coattails, learn from him, help him in any way possible. Because if you go to a big staff, it's hard to separate. I look back and I stayed one summer with Coach Knight. I sacrificed my summer, and that was a spring and summer. I was able to separate from the herd a little bit. And I tell our guys that too. You have to find a way to separate from the herd where you work. You have to find a way to separate from the other 360 Division I managers or GAs or walk-ons or whatever the case that you're going to be competing for jobs with.
Yeah, so true. Coach Young, as the executive director, as we close, how important is it for our association to have such an exemplar leading one of our universities? You got to feel really good about someone like Coach May, where he's at and how he supports our association.
Yes, from day one, you've been very supportive of what we're trying to do in BCAM. I think we take great pride. I know we take great pride in serving others, and we're lucky to have you. We really are, and I hope you're in Michigan for the rest of your career because you are really, really good, and you're a really good person. So I just want to thank you for spending the time tonight. I know you're a busy man. There's a lot going on, and it means a lot to us, and it means a lot to our association. Thank you.
That means a lot. I appreciate you saying that. I take a lot of pride in being a basketball coach in the state of Michigan. And everywhere I go, when I watch the teams play, they're well coached. The players play the right way, and that's a testament to the growth and development of our coaches. And hopefully I'm here for a long, long time. They keep me around, but it's an honor to be in the state and to be a part of what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Coach May, thanks for joining the BCAM podcast.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
How about that, Coach Young? I mean, one of the very, very best in our profession right here in our state. He gave a lot of love to our association and a lot of, and he said this, and I remember, him showing up at our BCAM event in Grand Rapids this summer, and he was, watching the games intently, taking notes. He, obviously, recruiting, but he does see our coaches in action. And for him to say something like that how good our coaches are, I think that's quite a credit to who we got on the sidelines here in the state of Michigan as coaches.
Yeah, their teams are fun to watch. Anytime a team plays hard, shares the ball, doesn't really care who scores, and compete all the way to the end. I mean, as a coach and as a fan of the game, it's just fun to watch. It's fun to be a part of. He referenced Oklahoma City and the Indiana Pacers, and that was exactly it. Teams that don't give in and continue to play to the end, and they're down 15, 20, and they just keep battling. And all of a sudden, they make a run, they make a shot, they win. He's really good. He's special. We're fortunate to have, like Coach Izzo, we're fortunate to have Coach Izzo's an all-time great and the best. And Dusty's pretty darn good. I mean, he's, more at the beginning of his career than his end, but we couldn't be more fortunate to have on the men's side two just special people that, care about others and support high school coaches.
Yeah, very, very fortunate. That might be one of those episodes for our coaches to listen and then listen again and really draw out some kernels. One of the things that, and I'll get the definition a little rough, but one of the definitions of wisdom is learning from other people's experiences. And so to use like the Indiana Pacers, losses and resilience and comeback as lessons for his own team and say, hey, watch the pros, see how they come back, and have his team learn from others, I think is really insightful rather than waiting for you guys to screw up to learn from your own adversity. I think it's a little bit of wisdom there. But yeah, give this one a listen. We want to thank all of our sponsors for all their support, all of the listeners for their positive feedback. Go ahead and give us a 5-star rating. That helps with our sponsors and helps with our following. We wish you all the best in this continued off season, and we're looking forward to the next episode.